St. Patrick was a Roman Briton who was kidnapped from either the west coast of Wales or Scotland, and he was brought over here to Ireland, where he was sold as a slave, and he tended sheep on these mountains of what we call today Northern Ireland. I'm on Slemish Mountain, where it's believed that he tended sheep here, and every year on March the 17th, St. Patrick's Day, people come up to the top of this mountain where I hike today. It's about a 550-foot hill or mountain from the car park up here. And so a pilgrimage is done, and that pilgrimage here would have been done about 9 days ago on March 17th. Today, I own the mountain. I mean, there's no one else here but me. And so, in thinking about Patrick's life and the tremendous influence that he had, and his story, of course, is very fascinating. Brought here as a slave at age 16, and then escaped 6 years later and went to the coast. He said he walked 200 miles to the coast, and there was a ship there, and he asked the captain if he would take him back to his home across the Irish Sea. At first the captain said no, but then later on allowed him to go. Years later, after becoming a priest and a bishop, Patrick felt the call, had a vision, and felt the call to come back to Ireland and to establish Christianity here. At that time, the Druid religion was very prominent here. But after Patrick spent his life, and by the way, he was born in 385 and died, it's believed, in 461 on March 17th. After he spent the rest of his life here spreading Christianity, this island became an entirely different place. Later on, monks would go out from here and spread the gospel. For instance, Columba, about 100 years later, left here and went over to Scotland, to the island of Iona, and established the Christian faith there. Well, anyway, I wanted to hike up here because it is the traditional place for Patrick when he was a teenage boy tending sheep here as a slave. And it's when you read his confessions, you find out that he says that he was instructed in the Christian faith as a child, but he abandoned that. But when he was a slave here from age 16 to 22, he began to pray and seek God as he was tending sheep. Today it's a very cold, windy day, and that's pretty typical for Ireland and for these parts. And Patrick talks about how he was not clothed properly. He was cold day and night. He was in the fields and on the mountains taking care of sheep. And so he began to pray and he began to seek God. And he got reacquainted with his faith, but more importantly, he came to know Jesus Christ in a personal way. He said that he would pray up to 100 times a day, just over and over, calling on the Lord. And he also said that the fear and the love of God increased in him daily as he would pray and seek the Lord. And then after 6 years, he had a dream or a vision of sorts in which he was told that a boat would be waiting for him on the coast. And so he walked, again, something like 200 miles. And sure enough, there was a boat ready to sail across the Irish Sea back to Britain. And he asked that captain, and the captain said, no, I can't take you. In fact, it was dangerous maybe for that captain, because if a slave escaped or tried to escape, the penalty for that was death. But after Patrick prayed some more, the captain came back just before they sailed and said, hey, you can go with us. So that's how he escaped. But later on, coming back maybe 20 years later, he spent the rest of his life spreading the gospel all over this land. Anyway, it was a privilege to hike up here today. I know 9 days ago there would have been a lot of people here, but today I kind of own the place, and I'm having quite a time in prayer and meditation, just enjoying myself up here. By the way, the book How the Irish Saved Civilization is a fantastic read. I'd really recommend that you read that book at some point.